Today we're going to find the zeros of this equation, x cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6. In order to begin this process, we're going to take the factors of 6, our last part of this equation, which is plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 6. So those multiplied together will give you 6. And then plus or minus 2 and plus or minus 3, because 2 times 3 will give you 6. And we're going to divide this by the factors of the coefficient of our variable with the highest power. So in this case, it'll be x cubed. And the coefficient in front of x cubed is a 1. And the factors of 1 are plus or minus 1. So when we divide out this fraction, we'll end up getting plus or minus 1, because the 1's divided by the 1's will give us a plus or minus 1. And then the plus or minus 6 divided by plus or minus 1 gives you plus or minus 6. And then again for plus or minus 2 and plus or minus 3. Then we're going to start plugging some of these numbers into our equation to see if one of them will give us a 0. A good one to start with would be 1 or negative 1, because they're a bit easier to handle than the larger numbers, and a lot of times they will give you a 0. So we'll start with the positive 1. So if I plug in 1, I have 1 cubed minus 2 times 1 squared minus 5 times 1 plus 6. Now 1 cubed gives me 1, and the negative 2 times 1 squared is a negative 2, and then negative 5 plus 6. Now 1 minus 2 gives me negative 1 minus 5 plus 6. Those added together will give me a 0. So that tells us that 1 is one of the zeros for this equation. To find the others, instead of plugging the rest of these numbers in, which could take a while, we can use synthetic division to break down our equation. So to set this up, we draw the 1 and then this L-shaped half of a box. And you write the coefficients of your equation in the top portion. So we have 1, negative 2, negative 5, and 6. To start, we bring this first 1 down. Then we do 1 times 1, which will give us 1. And then negative 2 plus 1 will give negative 1. And then 1 times negative 1 gives us a negative 1. And then negative 5 plus negative 1 gives us a negative 6. 1 times negative 6 gives negative 6. And then 6 plus negative 6 gives us 0. If we write out what we have now, each of these numbers becomes a coefficient in our new equation. So this will be x squared, the 1 is a coefficient in front of the x squared, minus x minus 6. And then this is being multiplied by x minus 1, because 1 we found was one of the zeros of this equation. And so now this new quadratic portion over here is much easier to factor than the original equation. So we have to think of what factors of negative 6 could add together to give us a negative 1. And in this case, it's going to be a negative 3 and a positive 2. So this is what our original equation looks like when it's factored out. And our zeros of this equation are going to be 1, 3, and negative 2.